Archbishop Gintaras Grusas, the Archbishop of Vilnius, and on this Feast of Divine Mercy, I'm very pleased to welcome you to Vilnius, Lithuania. Lithuania is a small country on the Baltic coast that has had a long history, often turbulent, often requiring much mercy. Lithuania was the last country in Europe to be baptized, and through its history, it has grown and contracted several times. At one point, Lithuania, in a joint nation with the Polish Republic, expanded all the way to the Black Sea, to the Ukraine, to Crimea, which is so relevant today. And over the last century, Lithuania had suffered much, as many of the countries in this region did during the two world wars. Lithuania is on the crossroads between East and West, between Western civilization and the Slavic nations in the East. And both world wars had created much hardship over the last century for the people here. The city of Vilnius in the last century was occupied by German troops, Russian troops, Polish troops, and only for a short time was under Lithuanian independence. But at the beginning of the century, the revelations of divine mercy to Sister Faustina Kowalska took place for a large part here in Vilnius. And as we prepare to celebrate Divine Mercy Sunday together with the Holy Mass at the Divine Mercy Shrine, I'd like to take the opportunity to help you understand what took place here in the early years of the last century. I myself began my studies for the priesthood in 1989 with a year of pre-theology at Franciscan University in Steubenville. And it was there that I first came across this devotion to divine mercy. At that time, I was studying to be a priest to serve the Lithuanians in the United States. But as Lithuania became independent and I was invited to come and serve in Lithuania, I have been here for the past 20 years and have been able to experience the devotion and the growth in devotion to the divine mercy here in Vilnius. Let us, in this next half hour, take a quick tour of the places that Sister Faustina, Saint Faustina, was living at, where the apparitions took place, and delve into the depths of divine mercy, which we will celebrate during the Holy Mass. We are here in what used to be the convent of the Sisters of Our Lady of Mercy, where Saint Faustina lived during her time in Vilnius, and where she had Jesus appear to her on various occasions. Saint Faustina joined the congregation of the Sisters of Our Lady of Mercy just before her 20th birthday in Poland, and went through her formation program there. At one point in 1929, she was sent here to Vilnius briefly for several months to substitute a sister who had been sent out for another preparation course. Having returned back to Poland, she was sent to serve in Plock, where on February 22nd, 1931, she had her first apparition of Jesus, the apparition where he appeared to her and asked her that a picture of the image that she saw be painted. This is how she describes it in her diary. In the evening when I was in my cell, I saw the Lord Jesus clothed in a white garment. One hand was raised in the gesture of blessing, The other was touching the garment at the breast. From beneath the garment, slightly drawn aside at the breast, there were emanating two large rays, one red, the other pale. In silence, I kept my gaze fixed on the Lord. My soul was struck with awe, but also with great joy. After a while, Jesus said to me, "Paint an image according to the pattern you see, with the signature, 'Jesus, I trust in you.' I desire that this image be venerated first in your chapel and then throughout the world. I promise that the soul that will venerate this image will not perish. I also promise victory over its enemies already here on earth, especially at the hour of death. I myself will defend it as my own glory." Having received this mission in Plock, after having made her final vows, she was sent to Vilnius to serve here, and we are standing here in the room that she lived in. Before coming to Vilnius, Sister Faustina had already been given a vision of the man who God had prepared to help her with her mission. This was Blessed Father Mikhail Sopochko, a priest here in Vilnius who was a professor at the seminary, a professor at Vilnius University, and was the rector of various churches during those years in the city of Vilnius. He was the one responsible that St. Faustina record her spiritual life in a diary that we have today. It is through this diary that we have a greater understanding of the revelation of divine mercy that Jesus has given us through the image, the devotion, and the prayers. Father Sopochko also was instrumental in establishing various things that were requested by Jesus, one of which was a new congregation of sisters of the Merciful Jesus, who today have returned to Vilnius and serve here, having a convent as well as a hospice. They not only pray for mercy, they do this great act of mercy. Father Sopochko was also instrumental in finding the artist who would paint the image that was requested by Jesus. Eugeniusz Kazimierowski began painting in 1934 at the request of Father Sopochko and Sister Faustina. Despite the fact that it was the only image that was painted under the supervision of Saint Faustina, as the later image were painted according to the description in her diary after her death. The image did not satisfy Saint Faustina because she could not get over the fact that there was no way to convey the beauty and the otherworldliness of Jesus as he appeared to her. And having gone back to the chapel after one of the times that she had seen the work and began to weep, Jesus reminded her that it was not in the beauty of the color or the brush that is the greatness of the picture. It is in his grace. And that is something for us to remember each time that we view the image of divine mercy, that it is an image of the grace that Jesus offers us. The image, however, once completed, was first kept in the apartment of Father Sopochko. After a while, he put it up in the corridor of the Bernardine convent where he was rector. The first public exposition of the image took place in the Gates of Dawn, a Marian shrine dedicated to the Mother of Mercy, and it was publicly exposed for veneration over the Easter Triduum that concluded the Holy Year of the Redeemer in 1935. Having heard that the picture is not in a chapel itself, through an apparition, Jesus told St. Faustina to tell her spiritual director that the picture should be moved into a chapel. And it was only after Sister Faustina had been sent back to serve in another convent in Poland that in 1937 the picture was moved to a side altar of St. Michael's Church next to the Benedictine convent. It was in 1950 that the church had been closed down, as had happened to many churches after the communist occupation. The picture, however, remained in this church, and several years later, some women made a deal with the custodian of the church and bought the picture from him, later giving it to the pastor of the Holy Spirit Church. And it was exposed, displayed on a side altar in that church. After Lithuania's independence in 1993, Pope John Paul II visited here. He prayed at that side altar in front of the picture of Divine Mercy, painted under the tutelage of St. Faustina, whose process of canonization in the Archdiocese of Krakow he began as the bishop there. He had then continued to promote the cause of Divine Mercy, as we well know, and the cause of the canonization of Saint Faustina, to spread this image, the devotion to it, throughout the world. We have arrived at the Shrine of Divine Mercy in Vilnius, where from 2006, the original image, directed by Saint Faustina, has been exposed here for the veneration of the faithful. Jesus himself describes his look, his gaze from the image, as similar to the gaze from the cross. It's full of love, it's full of mercy, it's full of a desire for the conversion of sinners. And so he has called St. Faustina to trust, to prayer, and to action, to be merciful and show mercy to others. So he calls all the faithful who come here, and all of us, to a personal conversion, a new trusting in Jesus, to a fuller life of prayer, of conversion and praying for sinners, and also to a call of action in the area of mercy towards others, towards our neighbors. Jesus describes to Saint Faustina in a beautiful way that great desire that she and we pray for the conversion of sinners. He said to her, "I desire that you know more profoundly the love that burns in my heart for souls, and you will understand this when you meditate upon my passion. Call upon my mercy on behalf of all sinners. I desire their salvation. When you say this prayer with a contrite heart and with faith on behalf of some sinner, I will give him the grace of conversion. This is the prayer. O blood and water which gushed from the heart of Jesus as a font of mercy for us, I trust in you. It was not only this prayer that St. Faustina received from the Lord. She was given the chaplet of divine mercy to pray and was taught how to pray it. About the chaplet, the Lord described to St. Faustina, "Oh, what graces I grant to souls who say this chaplet. The very depths of my tender mercy are stirred for the sake of those who say the chaplet. Write down these words, my daughter. Speak to the world about my mercy. Let all mankind recognize my unfathomable mercy. It is a sign for the end times. After it will come the day of justice. While there is still time, let them have recourse to the font of my mercy. Let them profit from the blood and water which gushed forth for them." As we discussed earlier, there was a great desire of the Lord to have the second Sunday of Easter declared as Divine Mercy Sunday. It was first declared as Divine Mercy Sunday here in Vilnius in 1946 at the urging by Father Sopochko to the then Archbishop Mečislovas Reinis. And it was instituted for the Universal Church by Saint Pope John Paul II when he canonized Saint Faustina in the year 2000. And from then we all gather together on the first Sunday after Easter to celebrate Divine Mercy Sunday, to come to the font of God's mercy. Here is how the Lord describes to Saint Faustina his desire for the Feast of Mercy. "My daughter, tell the whole world about my inconceivable mercy. I desire that the Feast of Mercy be a refuge and shelter for all souls, and especially for poor sinners. On that day, the very depths of my tender mercy are open. I pour out a whole ocean of graces upon those souls who approach the font of my mercy. The soul that will go to confession and receive Holy Communion shall obtain complete forgiveness of sins and punishment. On that day are open all the divine floodgates through which graces flow. Let no soul fear to draw near to me, even though its sins be as scarlet. My mercy is so great that no mind, be it of man or of angel, will be able to fathom it throughout all eternity. Everything that exists has come forth from the very depths of my most tender mercy. Every soul in its relation to me will contemplate my love and mercy throughout eternity. The Feast of Mercy emerged from my very depths of tenderness. It is my desire that it be solemnly celebrated on the first Sunday after Easter. Mankind will not have peace until it turns to the font of my mercy."
I demand from you deeds of mercy, which arise out of love for me. You are to show mercy to your neighbors always and everywhere. You must not shrink from this or try to excuse yourself from it. At 3 o'clock, implore my mercy, especially for sinners. And if only for a brief moment, immerse yourself in my passion, particularly in my abandonment at the moment of agony. This is the hour of great mercy. In this hour, I will refuse nothing to the souls that makes a request of me in virtue of my passion. As often as you hear the clock strike the 3rd hour, immerse yourself completely in my mercy, adoring and glorifying it. Invoke its omnipotence for the whole world, and particularly for poor sinners. For at that moment mercy was open wide for every soul. In this hour you can obtain everything for yourself and for others for the asking. It was the hour of grace for the whole world. Mercy triumphed over justice. Try your best to make the station of the cross in this hour, provided that your duties permit it. And if you are not able to make the stations of the cross, then at least step into the chapel for a moment and adore in the most blessed sacrament my heart, which is full of mercy. And should you be unable to step into chapel, immerse yourself in prayer there where you happen to be, if only for a very brief instant. Whoever approaches the fountain of life on this day will be granted complete forgiveness of sins and punishment. I want the image solemnly blessed on the first Sunday after Easter, and I want it to be venerated publicly, so that every soul may know about it. This feast emerged from the very depth of my mercy, and it is confirmed in the vast depth of my tender mercies. On one occasion I heard these words, "My daughter, tell the whole world about my inconceivable mercy." I desire that the feast of mercy be a refuge and shelter for all souls, and especially for poor sinners. On that day the very depth of my tender mercy are opened. I pour out a whole ocean of graces upon those souls who approaches the fountain of my mercy. The soul that will go to confession and receive Holy Communion shall obtain complete forgiveness of sins and punishment. On that day, all the divine floodgates through which graces flow are open. Let no souls fear to draw near to me, even though its sins be so scarlet. My mercy is so great that no mind, be it of man or of angels, will be able to fathom it throughout all eternity. Everything that exists has come forth from the very depth of my most tender mercy. Every soul in its relation to me will contemplate my love and mercy throughout eternity. The feast of mercy emerged from my very depth of tenderness. It is my desire that it be solemnly celebrated on the first Sunday after Easter. Mankind will not have peace until it turns to the fountain of my mercy. But there must also be deeds of mercy, which are raised out of love for me. You are to show mercy to our neighbors always and everywhere. You must not shrink from this or try to absolve yourself from it. I want to grant complete pardon to the souls that will go to confession and receive Holy Communion on the feast of my mercy. I have opened my heart as a living fountain of mercy. Let all souls draw life from it. Let them approach the sea of mercy with great trust. Sinners will attain justification, and the just will be confirmed in good. Whoever places this trust in my mercy will be filled with my divine peace at the hour of death. Let the greatest sinners place their trust in my mercy. They have the right before others to trust in the abyss of my mercy. My daughter, write about mercy towards tormented souls. Souls that make an appeal to my mercy delight me. To such souls I grant even more graces than they ask. I cannot punish even the greatest sinner if he makes an appeal to my compassion, but on the contrary, I justify him in my unfathomable and inscrutable mercy. Right, before I come as a just judge, I first open wide the door of my mercy. He who refuses to pass through the door of my mercy must pass through the door of my justice. Say, my daughter, that I am love and mercy itself. When a soul approaches me with trust, I fill it with such an abundance of grace that it cannot contain them within itself, but radiates them to other souls. There is no misery that could be matched for my mercy, neither will misery exhaust it. Because as it is being granted, it increases. The soul that trusts in my mercy is most fortunate, because I myself take care of it.
It is Divine Mercy Sunday here in Vilnius at the Shrine of Divine Mercy, and I invite you to join me for the celebration of the Holy Mass, the font of God's mercy. Let us approach it courageously, trusting in Jesus, so that we too may be immersed in it and experience God's greatest gift, God's mercy.